of the Tieng Adola Kingdom, who is representing the Adola, His Royal Moses Stephen War. Now, as the guests come in, we shall recognize and welcome them, so you know who has joined us today at this reading of the budget. Thank you very much. very much. You're going to put on band. I'm sure to all our guests who are watching, You must have observed that we have just been joined by the Right Honourable Deputy Speaker of Parliament. He has been received by the Clerk to Parliament. So the arrival of the Deputy Speaker of Parliament indicates that we have fewer dignitaries expected to come after him, and thereafter our function for the day will officially start. So the Right Honourable Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Thomas Tayebwa, has been received by the Clerk to Parliament, the Honourable Kasaija Adolf Mwesige, and he will now be briefed and interact with the Deputy Chief Justice as we now await for the arrival of the Right Honourable Speaker and our principal for the day. On the other flank of Parliament at the Salute Dais, I'm sure you also have noticed that the man of the day is here. We have all been eagerly awaiting the arrival of the Minister for Finance carrying his briefcase. So the Minister will be ushered through and take photographs along the way, noting the iconic moment when he always presents his budget speech to Parliament. This sitting is going to be the second sitting of the first meeting of the 11th Parliament of Uganda. The Minister of Finance is on the grounds, and he shall now come and take an iconic photograph under the tent here. Like I said, this is the second sitting of the first meeting of the third session of the 11th Parliament of Uganda. The first sitting that we had was just about a week ago, when His Excellency the President was here to address the nation and give us his State of the Nation address and the official opening of the third session of the 11th Parliament. The Minister for Finance is taking photographs with the briefcase that contains the national budget, and he has been accompanied by all his ministers of state.
Budget reading that is happening for 2023-2024. It will be ending towards the end of this month, the one of 2022-2023, and then 1st July, this new budget will be kicking in. 52.7 trillion shillings is what we're talking about here, and also even as you see, the Minister of Finance, Honorable Matia Kasaija, has just walked in. Also, the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker, Thomas Tayebwa, has also come through. We have a number of guests that have come through, both in the mainstream, but also guests that have come through Ministry of Finance. We also have dignitaries, diplomats that are all here to hear this budget reading. But also, even as we have this budget reading, we have quite a number of ministers that are here. Breaking down some of the things there, the biggest shareholders there is human capital at 9.5 trillion shillings, and that's the amount of money that has been set aside, especially being a program-based budget this year and last year. That is the biggest that we're looking at. We're also looking at infrastructure integrated transport and infrastructure, taking about 4.5 trillion shillings there, and we're seeing a lot of breakdown of money there. But also we look at what our debt is, 80.7 trillion shillings, and 47.7 trillion shillings there is external debt, and we look at 33.3 trillion shillings, which is domestic debt there. That is the biggest burden of debt that we have right now, and we look at it and say, how are we going to be paying this? We have set aside about 6 trillion shillings to be able to pay interest, and 8 trillion shillings to be able to make the loan repayment there. That's the biggest amount of money that we're looking at even as we go forward in this budget reading. The president will not be here, but we'll have a Zoom link where he comes in to be able to have his address. The Minister of Finance, Honorable Matia Kasaija, will be giving the address of the budget reading, and he'll come to us and break down those figures. What does that mean? What areas are important? What sectors are important? But also piggybacking back from what the president spoke about at the State of the Nation's address, commercial agriculture is one of the biggest things, but also we see agro industry at 1.4 trillion shillings, showing the intent of what we want to do with agriculture. PDM is also here, Emihoga is also in this, and we're talking about how far it has gone, the performance of the budget. Those are some of the questions we're going to have here, but also we'll be having guests here to ask how they feel about this budget and what it has done for them going forward. Have we been able to achieve the 25.5 trillion shillings in this financial year? There was a target for URA, but also we look at 29.1 trillion shillings for this financial year that is supposed to be coming through, and that's the biggest one there. I think even as we are here, the Right Honourable Speaker Anita Among has just arrived, meaning we're about to get this third session of the first meeting, of the second sitting, to be able to see the members of parliament here, but also looking at security and governance, which has about 7.1 trillion shillings. It is one of the biggest that is there, and we want to be able to see what happens with it going forward. What is the intention? What do we want to do with it? And how will it safeguard us going forward and ensuring that we have security both in our territories, in country, especially looking at the slaying and the killings that have been going on for a very long time. We want to know how it goes there and how much we're going to be able to pay in these things there. But we also look at Operation Shuja, we look at Karamoja, and we're asking ourselves, these are not in the budget. Will they come in the 3% of the supplementary budget? And will it be working for our good? Where will it be working for? And whose good will it be working for? We also look at tourism, not getting much, but yet it's low-hanging fruit, which brings in about 1.5 billion shillings. The question is, what is happening there? Kampala, that contributes 65% of GDP, how are they doing there? Even as we speak, the Right Honourable Speaker is coming through, and she's going to be able to exchange pleasantries with the Deputy Speaker, the clerk there, and also the Deputy CJ, who has also been there to join us, to be able to have that discussion going forward. But that is the biggest discussion there. What do we have for development? When we look at development in this country, how are we doing with it, and how can we be able to achieve? 6.5 trillion shillings has been set aside for development, and we're asking ourselves, which areas can be able to achieve our desire of development going forward? But I want to be joined especially by guests to be able to explain some of these things. And even as I'm being joined by my guest in a short while there, I'll be introducing him. But those are some of the details you need to be paying attention to. We have shifted from a sector-based budgeting and now program-based budgeting, whereby each program caters for even everything around it. When we look at security, we're also talking about governance in all those areas, the 7.1 trillion. But what has trickled down to the army is about 3.8 trillion shillings. And they say they have about 5 trillion shillings that is not really there. And we're wondering, what should we be able to do with that and more here as we go forward? So we keep up the discussion here, and you can keep engaged here at UBC. Please use the hashtag down there, but also let us know what you think. Are you satisfied with this budget? Even as they're going to read it, what areas are you interested in? And I'm being joined by Honorable Major General Jim Muhwezi, who is the Minister of Security, and want to be able to hear what his thoughts are, but also in terms of security, what elements should we be anticipating for in the next few years to be able to see that happening to all of us there. But also, before we do that, we know COVID is still around, so I'll sanitize the microphone before I give it to him. General, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
It's good to see you looking as smart as ever and keeping time.
Thank you very much.
One of us were out there looking at you, and we said the first person to keep time will be the general.
Thank you, thank you.
So, General, when you look at this budget and look at how much has been allocated to security, what are your thoughts?
I am aware of the strength of our country in terms of economy, in terms of production. I am aware of the problems of COVID, of the problems of the Russia-Ukraine war, but I am also aware of the importance of security as a facilitator for all the other sectors. So I know that we shall get enough from the money the country has, enough to protect Uganda, to preserve the people of Uganda, to facilitate the other sectors of government and of the economy to work. So we shall get enough.
General, you asked for 8.5 trillion shillings. You only got 3.8. You have a deficit of about 5 trillion shillings. How are you going to manage to keep security even with that deficit that you have there?
You see, our people, our cadres, our soldiers, the personnel are not careerists. They are not working for money. They are freedom fighters in uniform. They will serve the country with the money or without, like we were doing in the bush.
General, ISO and ESO fall under you, and there has been a lot of killings, a lot of young cadres taking their own lives. What has caused that, and what are you going to do about it in the next financial year?
Well, these killings and deaths are not uniform. They are not coordinated. They are separate, and the causes are different. There are boards of inquiry going on to investigate each of them, and we will come to establish whether they are mental cases, whether they are other factors. I cannot speculate, but I know it's not an endemic problem in the organizational structure. There are individual cases different.
General, my last question to you. How do you think the budget of 2022-2023 has performed, in your view, both as security but also on a general picture?
I think in the circumstances it has done very well, especially the president, who is de jure the Minister of Finance. He has managed the economy very well, and that's why Uganda has
Very much Uganda prisons.
Of course, because we have got food. We have food in Uganda, which is a basic best factor for the economy. So we've done well, and I'm looking forward to another good budget in the circumstances, which will lay foundation for the economy to grow even further.
General, when we look at the insecurity in South Sudan, in DRC, but also in the Karamoja region, does this concern you, and should Ugandans be concerned or worried?
Of course, we are all concerned, but we understand the problem in the Karamoja is caused by the proliferation of guns from South Sudan, like you are saying, and other areas. But we are doing our best to collect the guns and also to increase security to protect the neighboring districts and Karamoja itself, stop cattle rustling.
Thank you very much, General. We're going to get into immediately to be able to engage as the function has started, the budget reading. The functions will be attended or delegated to the Vice President here, Major High Excellency Jessica Lupo, who will be doing the preceding of the functions. All the functions that are supposed to be done by the President, she will be doing them, and then we'll hand over to the Minister of Finance to be able to give us the budget reading. Let's get to that.